Welcome to the first afternoon session on a case study about how we implemented a decoupled Drupal application. And we're going to be talking about these scan stations here. Don't try to scan. So that part of it's just like what you'd see in a grocery store. We'll be talking more about that shortly. So let me introduce our other speaker here. This is Lou Eigen, and Dr. Eigen is going to take the first part of the presentation. Also want to introduce Ramona Arnett and Margaret Margaret Sismanda. And we're all from BEA Enterprises. No, it's not BAE, BEA. We're a small shop out in Potomac, Maryland. So Lou, you want to take it from here?
Yes, pardon me for not standing, but I have a few physical problems. We're a small company that have been working in Drupal for 11 years. We tend to specialize in very difficult problems, ones that are out of the ordinary. Our favorite jobs are, well, is it possible to, then we like to decide that. And so we put a lot at the cutting edge of what you can do with the existing technology, or how do you push back the frontiers. Prior to our Drupal work, we've been involved with web development and had the honor of producing for the Department of Health and Human Services the first website after the original World Wide Web was first created. Within 4 months we had a website up, and that was the first of the HHS websites. In this particular case, what I'd like to show you is a classic problem that many organizations have many times, and that is controlling access to different events, different rooms, different buildings, or whatever, based on criteria. And the assumption we made is that everything already exists in the Drupal database. All the variables, all the data that you want to make decisions on are already there. Now, there are several solutions on the market in the $100,000 range, and another $10,000 for every scan station. We had a client that was looking for a $2,000 solution and $200 every time we had a scan station. And the kind of authentication in our client's case is who might be registered and who is not. Have they paid, if there's a fee or a membership? Have they signed something in the past year, like a do not disclose or an NDA or whatever it is you need? And are they in good standing? Did they break the rules and should they be allowed in? The case study we're going to show you involved not a government agency, because I think it would have been almost impossible to initially do this with a government agency, because the minute you get involved with authentication, the security people are in there, and everybody's in there, wants a piece of the definitions and wants to watch it. So this is a nice private sector model which has all the characteristics of government agency authentication. So in particular, it's involved with sports presses. For those of you who don't know what a sports press is, it's a private building corporation, and they have fields soccer fields, basketball courts, volleyball, football, whatever. People pay an annual fee to play in the sports class. Teams form. They might have another fee that they pay to enter a team. There are leagues that are organized, and they play for the leagues. And the facility, the business, if you will, supplies the facility, the referees, the scorekeepers, and the administration, the boards, and the other accoutrements to go with it. Now the access problem comes in is the two facilities we tried this on are the Marshall and Sons sports clusters. One is in Rockville and the other is at Dulles. And typically these places have 80,000 people each. Now, some of those have paid their annual membership fee, but at any given time the membership fee could expire. So we have to authenticate on that variable. Another variable is when they play in a sports class, the insurance company requires them to sign a waiver saying if they get injured, they won't do certain things. So we have to find out and be sure that a waiver has been signed in the last year, or if a new waiver has been issued, they've signed that in the last year. Then there's are they in good standing? And what that means is if they came in drunk or behaved themselves improperly, they should be change their status and they can't get in. So, in effect, the problem was these people on any given night, 2,000 or 3,000 people may show up. And it's got to move fast. Speed is very important here. Because the last thing you want is what often happens, especially at government agencies, is the lines back up. And in this way, we want you to have something that really moves fast. People should walk right through. Now, with our Drupal system, the sports class issues a personal digital ID, and Don will show you that later. And we also give them a keytag. And so
Keytag.
And so they can authenticate by showing their cell phone and their digital ID over the keytag, or the system is amenable to putting fingerprints, retinal scanning, any of the biological. As long as you can make a decision, and facial recognition is our next step with this. But the basic system has to be there and be able to hook up with a Drupal database. And Don will now show you how we do that.
Just a little bit of background. We have our own data center, but this is a large application that had some requirements that we found the best solution was to host it at AWS. So we're doing that. We're using a lot of the services they offer besides the server, the EC2. We're using their RDS database service to run MySQL. We're using S3 storage for bulk storage and for things that we just want to keep around but we're not going to access too often. We're using their Route 53 DNS, so that's all controlled there. We're using CloudFront. We're using Elastic IPs. The main server is auto scaling. We have actually several servers that are running one. All these search services, we have a Solar search engine. It's running on a separate server there. So we're making use of a lot of the AWS capabilities, and we've had pretty good success with that. So what I have here on the podium is this is one of the actual scanners. This manufacturer makes these for retail. You might see it next to the cash register. What a scanner does is it takes whatever the barcode is, and it could be a two-dimensional code, it could be a QR code. There are hundreds of formats that this can read, and what comes out of it through the USB connection is it's just like a keyboard was attached to the computer. So you scan in the ID and you get it. It fills in a form, and the form's submitted, and you go from there. The other thing that goes with this is where the computer is. It's a Raspberry Pi, and this is a 7-inch touchscreen display. If you've ever experimented with Raspberry Pi, it's lots of fun to do this, but we have many of these in the Sportsplexes. So the other thing that I didn't show here is we also have a speaker. This speaker forgot to turn off this phone. Sorry. We also have an audio speaker. We also required it to be plugged into a surge protector and some things like that. But we go out and install these, but if there was a hardware failure or somebody damages it or it disappears, we can just send them a new one. So what do you have to do to install this? You plug it in, it boots up, and you get the display right there on the screen. And I'll show you what that looks like. But you can see in the picture here, this is at one of the locations. They have 3 scanners. Remember what Lou said, you have all these teams come in together, so you'll have these surges of people. And so by having more of these, we found in this location 3 was the optimal number to keep the crowds from getting too big, backed up. I saw the lunch line here, and I was thinking, would not do. The picture at the bottom gives you an idea. That's what comes up on the screen. Now the screen is usually facing whoever is taking care of that particular area. When I say area, I mean a room like this, or in the case of the Sportsplex, it could be the soccer field or one of the soccer fields or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. But when you scan, it brings up your picture, your name, and some other information, which is like, go ahead, or don't. You can't go in because you're not active. Go to the service desk. Might be in the lobby. It might be right there by the room. You might have a table where people are being taken care of and where they can register. A lot of our people in this application are pre-registered, but sometimes someone will come in and they didn't pay for their membership. They'll go. You can do that on their phone. Well, yeah, that's another decoupled app I'll talk about briefly, and so they can register and pay right on their phone, and to bring up their QR code that they can scan in with. So even before they have their key tag, we also they get a key tag pretty soon, and so the key tag and the QR code are the unique identifiers. The ID number is the user ID from Drupal. So your user ID is your ID number because we knew from the beginning those are unique. The key tags, we manufactured tens of thousands of them for future use. We have 3 facilities now. We have 2 using them. The third one, they're about to start doing that. So you can scan in with either your phone. You could even print out your phone and take a piece of paper in. That'll work too. So the barcode can be bigger or smaller. The scanner is really quite tolerant of that. And what happens is when you scan, it goes beep, and then within a second it also gives you a pleasant tone saying you're admitted, or it may go bat, which is go to the service desk. They'll take care of you. Lou also mentioned you know, you can have any kind of identifying data you want on the scan. So we've done a little research on experimenting with facial recognition, which the libraries for that are pretty available. So we may do some other things, but for now we're using the QR codes. So the user comes in, they scan, and they're on their way. So whenever someone scans, we record that in their user account. So even if they were rejected, we can do a report with views. We have a ton of reports, but one of them we could say, who are the people that scanned but they weren't admitted? You know, maybe we need to talk to them or whatever. It depends on your application. But in our case, we're interested in what are the statistics? How many people are going through without a problem? How many people have to take extra time to be taken care of? You know, you can learn a lot about how your operational system should be working. Operational meaning the...
Just another view. Just made another view, we had another report.
So you can see that this stream of people can come by within a few seconds. The next person scans in, and it's working quite well. It's, the people that run the facilities are really happy with the way it's working. So so just to tell you what's inside here, I saw some heads nodding. People know about the Raspberry Pi, but that's it's really a cool device for 30 bucks. You got 4 USB ports, HDMI, you got an audio port, you got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in one chip, and you can put all kinds of things on it. It's got HDMI. You can put. I'll show you another application where we're connecting the Pi to a TV, a big TV, and or you can use some of our speakers use USB connected. Some use there's an audio port you can plug in to that as well. So this turned out to be a good choice. It's manufactured in very large quantities and pretty reliable. We've never had a failure on that. Software, it's all open source. We're running there's 1 gig of memory, so it's not a big computer, but we're running Raspbian, which is a version of Linux. It comes with, besides a Chromium browser, it comes with a set of Office applications to do documents, spreadsheets. You know, that's all that comes with it, and a whole bunch of other fun things. You can install Python. So there's a lot of opportunity to use this beyond just this initial application. And can't beat the price. And there's such a huge community on for the software that there's tons of things available. Not only the software, but we're just plugging the board into this touch screen. But you can buy all kinds of other devices and connect to it. There's a big I/O bus in there, and you can get cameras, all kinds of sensors, controls. It's pretty interesting. If you're interested in build your own, take a look at that. Yeah.
Do you use Python?
Not for our application, but you could develop things in Python. We're not using it, no. In fact, the actual the way that this works is the browser, the Chromium browser. When you boot it, we have it set up so that it fills the screen, gets rid of all the, the desktop stuff and the header in the browser, and it just looks like that thing I showed. It's a scan. You scan, and it's got the picture pops up. So really, in here, we're just running a browser. So it keeps the software simple. It means that we have there's a micro SD that contains all the software that's in here, and you just load that with the standard Raspbian OS, and then you set up the config file so that it says when when the browser loads, hide this, do that. So it's pretty straightforward. If you work with Linux systems, it's really a piece of cake. And then the nice thing is you can duplicate those micro SD cards, and then as you build these, you can just put them in there. And the only thing you have to do when you go to a location is you have to enter the Wi-Fi password. On the other hand, it has an Ethernet port built in also, so depending on that. All of our facilities have Wi-Fi, and it works really well. So if you're not running the browser, this is what the desktop looks like, pretty familiar. If you haven't worked with Linux, but you have a PC or a Mac, you're not going to have any trouble figuring out how to do something. And as I said, we keep the setup for the people simple so that non-technical people can make it work. Somebody unplugged the power strip, the surge protector, all of these things went off, plug it back in, they all boot up. And all you have to do is, there's a special QR code each facility has, and what you do with it is, when it boots up, it says configuration. You scan the configuration barcode, and it goes and loads the right parameters for this particular facility. They differ a little bit from one to another. For example, the name of the facility is in there. So we have that, and then you can go back. So the normal operating mode is a browser window. That's what you see. Okay, so here's how it works on the inside. You have the kiosk scan. So the only thing the only data transmitted is the user ID number or the key tag number, one or the other. The application running on the server is talking to the Drupal backend, and when it looks the person up, it sends back to the kiosk name, photo, eligibility, that audio sound, and it also can, someone at the service desk can also deal with it. So if someone is rejected, they're immediately ready to help them out, get them registered, or tell them their presence isn't going to work because they're banned or something. We occasionally have those kind of issues. They're banned out. So, but anyway, this is what the screen looks like in the left corner there. It's got their name, picture, and etc. So the top left is a logo area where you can identify the location and so on. Actually, it's pretty straightforward HTML. You can do whatever you want, make it look however you want. So Lou mentioned this earlier. We want to, our operations management, want to be able to get a sense of what's going on, big picture. So we've developed all kinds of views for them to help them find out things. An example was, give me all the people who scanned in, arrange that by area, by facility, and show the scan date times, their user ID, name, photo, and so on. Or you could just do this as a statistical summary and just say, on Tuesday in room A, we had so many people registered, so many people scanned, so many people were registered and didn't show up, whatever that type of thing. Another thing for our sports application is when you go to the field, there are rosters of the two teams. We had one guy had a friend who was formerly played for DC United. He's a professional soccer player, and he said, "Oh, we got a game tonight. Why don't you come and hang out with us?" And so they had this guy. They finally made him play in the back because every time he had the ball, he scored. So that's an example, but you might have other reasons why you want to check and make sure. If it's a paid event, you don't want to have a lot of people showing up who didn't pay, perhaps. So this gives you the ability to have a roster Now you can see on the right side, this is actually this is the roster for a particular team, and you can see that the person who's monitoring this has that information. Somebody scans in, they get check marks saying you're checked in. If somebody registered but they didn't pay the fee, it'll have a couple of hashtags. I don't know why hashtags, but anyway, that means you didn't pay. And you can see that Sandy, the second line there, she's all set except she hasn't checked in yet. She's the last one there for this particular thing. So that's the kind of part of the tools that the operational people have to see what's going on. Also, if you're out there in the field, you can look at the other team and see they have 8 people listed, but there are 12 on the bench. You know, who snuck in and what's going on. One other thing, I've talked about this already, about how you power them up and configure them and everything. One other thing is we give the facility people a one-page instruction sheet with some photos on it, and it just shows them just do A, B, and C. You know, if you're having a problem with it, it's not working, it got shut off. This is what you have to do to get going. And then we provide tech support by Slack, email, text. Had a call last night from a guy at 11 o'clock, but it turned out it had nothing to do with the scanner. He was just lonely, I guess. Not sure. But so we do support the application, and so here's what the program does. You scan the code and send that to the server. The server looks up the user account, Drupal user account, gets the data that we need, and makes some decisions. If the user is paid, if they're all registered, if everything is good, the screen, what it says on the screen is go play, or enter, whatever you want it to say. Ours say go play, and if you're inactive, if you're not eligible, it's going to say, go to the service desk. Something more pleasant than the beep beep. The other thing that happens is that we have to go out and update the user account. You can't just display this on the kiosk screen, but you have to record the date and time of the scan. And another thing is these scans expire. In our facilities, they expire after 3 hours. It's sometimes the case that somebody will be on 2 teams and they'll be playing at a 1 o'clock game and a 6 o'clock game. They'd have to scan in again, but you can set that to anything you want. I think originally we had it 12 hours, so there's some easy configuration parameters that you can set. And as you saw in the little video clip, it really just takes a second from the time the ID code is scanned until all these other things happen. So we had a problem, though. It wasn't always as cool as this. The way that this is coded is it's coded in Node in JavaScript on the server side, and we got everything working. It was functionally doing what we wanted, but it was taking 10 seconds, sometimes longer, for the process to complete. And as we said, if you've got everybody trying to come in at once, that really caused bottlenecks. Some people were angry. Why do I have to scan in? Why can't I just go in? So we took a look at that, and the solution we came up with was to use the non-blocking approach in the JavaScript. At one point, we go directly to the Drupal tables with my SQL command, a query, and get the information, process it, and then we can also, in parallel, send the response to the kiosk and also update the Drupal database user account. So that tweak really, it cut the response time from scan until result, cut that down by a factor of 10. So everybody's really happy, not the least of which is all the people that had to line up and scan in. They're very happy now. They can just kind of bring their key tags.
For experienced Drupal users, this is counterintuitive. Essentially, you're going to bypass Drupal and go direct to the MySQL database. If you go through Drupal for this particular function, you cannot find a way to get it below 10 seconds.
Although we started doing some Drupal 8 sites, and as promised, the API in Drupal 8 really is very functional and performant. In this particular for this particular client system, we actually had to write some Drupal 7 modules to create additional endpoints to meet some of our needs that we couldn't do through the normal API. So we're greatly looking forward to doing more sites in Drupal 8. We talked about the browser already. I just wanted to mention that on the way that these things connect is there's Wi-Fi built into the Raspberry Pi. It's the slower 2.4 gigahertz, but it's more than adequate for the small amounts of data in these packets. As I said before, there's also it's possible to plug into Ethernet or use a Bluetooth connection. We're not using either of those at the moment. We found that the internet provider speeds varied quite a bit from one facility to another, and it didn't seem to make any difference. There was plenty of bandwidth for this, even where we have hundreds of people doing this at multiple sites all at the same time. Everything worked quite well. So there are several areas in this application that we've decoupled from using the standard Drupal front end, the GUI, to do things for us. We have this KIOSK scanner that we've been talking about mostly. We also have a mobile application. It's not native mobile, but it's amazingly good. And I'll talk about that again in a second. And then we have something we call the local presence display. Imagine a TV set that just says, here's everybody in the class, and here's who's here, and here's who's not. And it's up on the board, not only for the instructor, but everybody can see that. And this particular application was required. So the mobile app is coded in Angular. So the user-facing side of what you see on your mobile device is written in AngularJS, and the code is nice and clean. I have to admit, though, that we're doing some renovations for some additional functions. They're all going to be done in React. So you can have your choice of what tool you want to do to build your front end, but that's what we're doing. So on the mobile device, 99% of the people use that instead of going onto a PC to register. So you go in, you go to the website, which is, instead of sportslifex.com, it's m.sportslifex.com. You go there and you either sign in or register. If you register, you fill in your name and address, you pick a user ID of your favorite choice. You can take your photo or pick a photo out of your photo library on your phone, and we have some interesting photos that people have put in there, with 80,000, you can imagine. Some people have children, they don't want to put their kid's picture in there, so they put a picture of something else in there. So you take your picture, you also sign your waiver, so you don't have to physically sign something, you just agree to it. You can scroll through it and read it. you're good to go. You're registered. You can, once you're registered, one of the menu choices there's only a few. One of them is to bring up your digital ID, which is the picture on the right. So you can use that to scan in. Some people didn't want to bring their phones in if they're playing sports. They want to, you know, I don't want to bring my phone in and leave it on the sidelines. So now that everybody has key tags, we're like, every time there's a new person, they automatically get a key tag that day. So we found them to be very popular, especially younger people like to have a little key tag on their key ring. Yeah.
So how do you associate the key tag with their user account?
Good question. So we have the service desk has a form. Okay. You can. It's got all different kinds of ways to search for the person. You bring up their record, and you can do a couple things there. But one thing you can do is assign a key tag. Another thing you could do there at the service desk is sometimes people want to pay with cash, or you know, they don't want to pay online for whatever reason, and so that they can do those things from this. So we have a search listing, and then a form where you can do certain things, restricted things. We don't want the front desk people to have total access to the users. But that's how we do it, and it's turned out, and I mean, one thing we've been doing, like last week there were, I think, 12 new teams registered all within a couple days. So we have hundreds of people, and so what they do is they register, and then while they're playing, or the next time they come in for a game, the next time they get their key tag handed to them. So it's been working really well.
We use the scanner also, in that when they go to assign a key tag, they just bring up the person, hit the button, say assign a key tag. Each key tag is uniquely numbered with a different number in the sequence from the manufacturer. And that way, it's paired with it, and that key tag is entered into the database.
So the service desk also has one of these same scanners we use in the kiosk. Plugged in. When they bring up this form, you just click on the box. I want to put the key tag number in there. Scan it. You're done.
Don, what's the price of the scanner?
The scanner is about $60, I think, or $80, something like that. The touch screen is about $50. The board itself is $30. They have a new model of the Raspberry Pi, so now you can get the model we're using for $5 less. No cost. The speakers we're using, we have two kinds, but they're both about $10. So
$200 a station, does it?
yeah. So the mobile app is decoupled. The other thing we have are these TV displays. In one facility, they have it on the wall like this, or like the one over there, and people can just look up. You know, there's the scoreboard, and then there's the rosters of players. The other facility that I'm thinking of, they actually have two TVs back to back, facing each of the benches, but keeping them separated. One Raspberry Pi, an HDMI splitter, so that the Pi drives the two screens, no problem. The splitter is powered, so it can take care of that. So again, we looked at this list before. You can see, like Sandy registered, but she never came, or she hasn't come yet. Pat checked in, as did most of the other people. And also, it shows you can designate who the trainer, the coach, the leader. You can designate them with. We use C for coach, but it could be whatever you want. And you can have, as many. Typically, you're going to have more than one person who's going to be leading the session.
The government application is a way of checking with the people who are supposed to come. Are they there yet? When do we? If it's a large crowd, you're expecting 80 people, and you have 77 of them, you know immediately when you start or when you don't start. So there's a lot of management data that is available once you have the system in. And the screen in the facility is just running off the browser, driven by the Raspberry Pi.
So I didn't point this out, but when we first started talking about these decoupled apps, this is a little snippet from some of the Angular code for the mobile app. So there's a fair amount of code in there for it, but it's all, you know, if your folks are JavaScript savvy, you can use any of these various programs to drive the front end, either on the client PC or with Node. You can do your JavaScript back on the server. So, which is typically what we've done. So, I just want to thank everybody for coming. Would certainly entertain any questions or comments or discussions.
Just one observation. This is not a secure environment, but that's only because we didn't put it within a secure environment. If we put it on this campus, for example, which already is a secure environment, and kept the servers here and everything else, it's secure. So the system and the technique lends itself to a secure environment if you need it, or not.
So are some of you thinking of taking your I assume most of you are involved with Drupal sites. Are you thinking of implementing another one and decoupling some of it or all of it, or changing or decoupling some of an existing site? Yes.
Just roughly, what's the time frame and what's the kind of a development time? The requirement looks pretty straightforward, right? So since you narrow down the requirements, actually just starting kind of implementing to actually deliver.
Right. The mobile app, for example, was the first one, and we got it from start to beta testing in about 6 weeks. Some of the tools that the programmers were using, they had to learn. So, you know, if you're always already JavaScript savvy and you're into Angular and so on, or React, it might go faster. But once we did the beta test, it took another almost 6 weeks of interacting with real clients to get some of the things to work the way that we thought we had a good user interface, and generally it is, but the way they interacted, the sequence, initially you could take a photo, but everyone said, well, you know, I want to look at my photo library, which wasn't that hard to do. That hadn't been done. So, you know, think of this in weeks, but not in, you know, it's not a year-long thing.
And by the way, as I'm sure you've run into, the clients here were sure they knew exactly what the players would do and what they needed. Turned out they were wrong. So we're starting with their definition and their spec, and then for another 6 weeks to persuade them that they didn't have it quite right, and the reality was a little different from what they perceived, and then we programmed the reality as opposed to their perception of the reality. And I'm sure you've run into that, but the government happens all the time.
Yeah, I talked to someone last night over at one of the facilities, and she was saying everybody's happy, the players are happy, the staff is happy, thank you. You know, that's what you want to hear from the client. So I think we're pretty close to having this particular application correct. Yes?
Is there a plan B, something happens with the system? Let's say the Wi-Fi connection is a must, right?
No, you can use Ethernet.
Okay.
It works on Ethernet. It doesn't have to be Wi-Fi. Like I said, there's an Ethernet port built into the Raspberry Pi. It's...
Okay. Even so, they say if something goes out, it does.
Right. If you're disconnected from the internet, it won't work. That's right. We don't keep I mean, it's possible to keep a database locally
Yeah.
of the users for that facility. But we haven't, that didn't seem to be a requirement.
Okay.
If you wanted, we could talk about how you might do that later.
But essentially, if we were doing one for this campus, we would definitely put the database locally, put a new server on it, and keep the whole Drupal operation here.
I mean,
For a lot of reasons.
we have facilities, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, and we have some others waiting in line to join this. So, you know, you have to think about what's practical and cost effective.
Right, and unlike most government agencies, have people come into meetings or go into trainings or allowed access to a library, a special reading room or something, and they're numbered in the tens, maybe hundreds, maybe even 1,000. But here, we're working with many, many facilities. Each one has 80,000 people. So we're up in the millions here. And to put that in one server, it's more economical to use a central server with AWS and have everybody keep their data on that. And since security is not an issue, that's a very inexpensive and highly reliable solution.
Someone over here has a question.
You mentioned you had a half-second-ish response time. Is that from, say, are you done forth out of Drupal, or is it Angular to Node and that?
Okay, so that is, we're measuring from that first beep that the scan occurred and the process started until the result appears back on the kiosk.
Right. Are you able to get that out of Drupal, or are you using Angular to Node?
We're doing actually both.
Okay.
So where we were having a bottleneck, we bypassed the API and went to the tables,
Right.
and
that became super fast.
I can't emphasize enough, you must go to the tables. Everything else we tried in 10 seconds. But the breakthrough was going right to the tables. And if there's anything that you get out of this presentation, it's if you really need speed, bypass Drupal and go right to the tables.
Although I have to say, with Drupal 8, we don't have any data yet about comparing it. But there's been so much work done on the Drupal 8 API, and it's so well documented that
It might be better, we're not sure.
we're hoping. Let us know if you hear anything.
But be prepared, if speed is a problem, be prepared to bypass Drupal and go right to the database.
Yes.
This might be a stupid question, but you said you're using Node.js on the server side to hit this MySQL directly. That's not what you said?
No.
Using JavaScript on the server side to query the database tables directly?
Rather than, yes,
Rather than go through view or something?
Yes.
Is that what I'm saying? And so are you still using core for your content types, your users,
Yes.
your roles?
So if you looked at the schemas for all the entities and everything, it's 100% Drupal. We don't have any custom tables. It's all Drupal. So the back end is a true Drupal system.
Okay.
And in fact, there are some applications where it doesn't make any sense to decouple it. We use views extensively for all kinds of things. Bulk operations, statistical reports. So we use, as I said at the beginning, this project is a little over 2 years old, and until 6 months ago it was all standard Drupal GUI. And then we started doing this. We actually, we have a plan we've developed that we're going to start working on in a few months, where there are some functions that we're going to really improve by decoupling them. We're going to take the messaging system and use Graph to make that run more like you'd want to see in messaging, rather than using Drupal to take care of the messages. We have an extensive messaging system not as efficient as it could be, and it's a little counterintuitive because we programmed it rather than using something off the shelf. So the future is bright with decoupling. It's I don't know that there's too much code here. I doubt if we'll ever go to Drupal 8, but
the most important thing is that the database is entered in Drupal. In other words, when people register, they register in Drupal, they sign up, they read the thing, they press the box, they sign the waiver. That's a real Drupal, classic Drupal operation.
yes.
You mentioned facial recognition. Does that just entail you take a photo and then you send it to a service? Or like, are you processing facial matches on the Raspberry Pi?
No.
That wouldn't be processed on the Raspberry Pi.
I didn't think so, yeah.
Facial recognition is hot stuff, but it needs a lot of capability. Right now, the two best that we stand are Microsoft Azure and AWS. They each have a competitive package in which you have 1, 2, or 3 pictures of each person. The more you have in the database, the more reliable it is. And if we put that in, then the first identification comes from their face. If you want corroboration, then you may have more so with their sheet's head or their ID. But you probably don't have to. But the way that works is you store your base pictures at Microsoft or Amazon, and then you send the individual picture, they find it, and send you back and say, it's this person.
Also, looking to the future, the iPhone 10s have a chip that does the facial recognition for the login. So imagine that technology now becoming available. I don't know if it'll be in a Raspberry Pi, but it could be in something else. So it might be possible, not too distant future, to be able to do the facial recognition right locally.
Well, you can do it. If everybody who has Windows 10, you have an option of using your own facial recognition. There's a huge difference between determining whether or not the camera on you is you, yes or no, as opposed to the camera on you, there are 2 million people out there, which one is it? Big difference.
Okay, well, our time has come to an end. Thank you all again for coming. Appreciate it.